Why, hello there. Hello. How are we today? How's it going? Sup, Losh? How's it going? Hey, Jewel65? How's it going? You're hiding from trick-or-treaters too? In the dark? So am I. I hear them outside. They're walking around. They're having fun. They're saying trick-or-treat. I hear them. Yeah. My lights are all off. Hopefully they don't knock on our doors. Sup, Daniel? How's it going? Happy Halloween. Sup, Blue? How's it going? Sup, user ZZ6XV blah blah blah. How you doing? Sup, Greek yogurt? Mm. Alright. Still light outside. Okay, well, we're all hiding from the trick-or-treaters. Sup, Kai Biohime? How you doing? You know what? Trick-or-treating not as it used to be. When I was a kid, I think the most candies I ever got from trick-or-treating was like in middle school, right? It's like the fun middle school days. Yeah, I got so many candies. I can never relive those days, you know? For some reason, after middle school, the Halloween haul just got worse and worse and worse. What's up, Muskie? What's up, the web updater? Just call you Jay? Okay. Emanon, how's it going? We've been watching for almost a decade. Wait, have I been on YouTube for almost a decade? I don't think so. I think I went full time like 6 years ago. It must have been something like that. But man, you've been around for a while. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Sup, Skull? How's it going? The lighting is spooky. I have my candle here. I'm ready for some ghost stories. Sup, Taylor Edwards? 6 years? Yeah. Who here is a human? Not me. I'm using my human avatar right now. I'm wearing my human costume. How's it going? Do you like it? Sup, Artless? Yeah, my funnest trick-or-treating times were in middle school. I remember one time I was going around with my brother. I had a full body gorilla suit, right? It was hella awesome with this whole gorilla mask. It looked really scary. We were walking around and we knocked on the door of this Chinese family and this Chinese lady came out and she's like, ah, she loved this stuff. She's like, I love your suit. And then she calls her husband or whatever. He comes in. They're super excited. They pulled us in. They invited us into the house. Where they had a little party going on. So everyone was like, hi. And they just started taking pictures of us. Taking a bunch of pictures. They gave us a bunch of candies. Yeah, that was the best. I was like, oh, they really liked my costume. Yeah. Don't burn your house down? I hope not. Been here since 2023? That's been a while. 2020? Yeah. How about a costume based on my character? What do you mean? What do you mean my character? That's me. This is my costume right here. You mean just take off my costume? Maybe we'll do that. All right. You need to eat soon? Okay. Well. You've been human this whole time? All right. All right. You ready? Oh, shit. No, I should get something. Oh. I have candy. I have a snack. Okay, hold on. In the spirit of trick-or-treating, I have a snack. I'm gonna eat it. Oof. I need a Dynasty Warriors Lubu costume. All right, I got 2 snacks. One Halloween related. The other not. This is a Kit Kat. I don't know what flavor it is though. Some spooky flavor. Maybe it's pumpkin. Hold on. What's up, Lady Hawk? How's it going? All right, I'm having trouble here. All right. I think it's apple pie. For some reason, it's apple pie flavor. Yum. All right, that's actually pretty good. It's like a 7 out of 10. All right. Don't know what this is. Seems to be some kind of just sugary thingy. All right. Let's see. If you don't know me, I have a problem with packaging. It is very hard to open packages. For some reason. Ugh. Why? Why is packaging so hard? I opened it. Why? Alright. Give me a minute. Having some technical difficulties. I'm having some mental difficulties. Can I curse you to become a goblin? Alright. Daniel? Boom. Now you're a goblin. What? What? Okay, I think we got it. Oh! Thank God. Oh, it's like marshmallow. It's kind of squishy. Okay. It's marshmallow on the outside. On the inside is some some sour candy. Sour marshmallow tasting thing. Okay, yeah, it's all right. It's like a 6 out of 10. Your magic is weak. You only have one tail. Well, just gotta wait for like 100 years. You'll grow your second one. It'll be fine. Okay, you ready? Let's start with some ghost and goblins. I think in the West they say goblins, but it's actually tengu. All right. All right. Good night, Greek yogurt. Okay. Of ghosts and goblins. A long time ago, in the days when fox women and goblins haunted this land, there came to the capital with her parents a samurai girl, so beautiful that all men who saw her fell enamored of her. And hundreds of young samurai desired and hoped to marry her, and made their desire known to her parents, for it has ever been the custom in Japan that marriages should be arranged by parents. But there are exceptions to all customs, and the case of this maiden was such an exception. Her parents declared that they intended to allow their daughter to choose her own husband, and that all who wished to win her would be free to woo her. Many men of high rank and of great wealth were admitted to the house as suitors, and each one courted her as he best knew how, with gifts and with fair words and with poems written in her honor, and with promises of eternal love. And to each one she spoke sweetly and hopefully, but she made strange conditions. For every suitor she obliged to bind himself by his word of honor as a samurai, to submit to a test of his love for her, and never to divulge to living person what that test might be. And to this all agreed. But even the most confident suitors suddenly ceased their importunities after having been put to the test, and all of them appeared to have been greatly terrified by something. Indeed, not a few even fled away from the city, and could not be persuaded by their friends to return, but no one ever so much as hinted why. Therefore it was whispered by those who knew nothing of the mystery that the beautiful girl must be either a fox woman or a goblin. You got a fucking ad? Oh, we have ads here? Wait, how do I turn it off? Mm. Do. You know, just for your enjoyment, how do I turn it off? Do. There you go. No more ads. Ads in streams are kind of weird, right? So when it plays an ad, you can't hear you can't actually see the video, right? So you just skip a portion of the video. That's not cool. All right. Well, now, when all the wooers of high rank had abandoned their suit, there came a samurai who had no wealth but his sword. He was a good man and true, and of pleasing presence, and the girl seemed to like him. But she made him take the same pledge which the others had taken, and after he had taken it, she told him to return upon a certain evening. When that evening came, he was received at the house by none but the girl herself. With her own hands, she set before him the repast of hospitality, and waited upon him, after which she told him that she wished him to go out with her at a late hour. To this he consented gladly, and inquired to what place she desired to go. But she replied nothing to his question, and all at once became very silent and strange in her manner, and after a while she retired from the apartment, leaving him alone. Only long after midnight she returned, robed all in white like a soul, and without uttering a word, signed to him to follow her. Out of the house they hastened while all the city slept. It was what is called an oboroskiyo, a moon-clouded night. Always upon such a night, 'tis said, do ghosts wander. She swiftly led the way, and the dogs howled as she flitted by, and she passed beyond the confines of the city to a place of knolls shadowed by enormous trees, where an ancient cemetery was. Into it she glided, a white shadow into blackness. He followed, wondering, his hand upon his sword. Then his eyes became accustomed to the gloom, and he saw. By a new-made grave she paused, and signed to him to wait. The tools of the grave-maker were still lying there. Seizing one, she began to dig furiously, with strange haste and strength. At last her spade smote a coffin lid and made it boom. Another moment, and the fresh white wood of the kwan was bare. What is that? The coffin? Okay. Wait, how do I move this? Go away. Oh. Maybe I'll move it down here. She tore off the lid, revealing a corpse within. The corpse of a child. With goblin gestures, she wrung an arm from the body, wrenched it in twain, and squatting down, began to devour the upper half. Then, flinging to her lover the other half, she cried to him, "Eat, if thou lovest me. This is what I eat." Not even for a single instant did he hesitate. He squatted down upon the other side of the grave and ate the half of the arm, and said, "Kekko degozarimasu. Moskoshi chodai." Okay. I tried, okay? That means it is excellent. I pray you give me a little more. Ah, this guy. For that arm was made of the best kwashi that Saikyo could produce. Some kind of confectionery. And then the girl sprang to her feet with a burst of laughter and cried, "You only of all my brave suitors did not run away, and I wanted a husband who could not fear. I will marry you. I can love you. You are a man." "Oh, Kinjuro," I said as we took our way home, "I have heard and I have read many Japanese stories of the returning of the dead." So this is the narrator, I think. "Likewise, you yourself have told me it is believed the dead return, and why? But according to both to that which I have read and that which you have told me, the coming back of the dead is never a thing to be desired. They return because of hate, or because of envy, or because they cannot rest for sorrow. But any of who return for that which is not evil, where is it written? Surely the common history of them is like that which we have this night seen. Much that is horrible, and much that is wicked, and nothing of that which is beautiful or true." Okay, I think so. It's like a narration. So the story's over. So all the other suitors did not dare to eat, but this guy didn't even hesitate. So she just made a little fake corpse, little fake arm for the guy to eat. All right, did you guys like that one? Wait, how does this work? I know that story. I always like that story. Oh, okay. So this chapter is like they'll tell multiple stories, um, with the narrator talking in between. Okay. That guy was a cannibal. Maybe she liked cannibals, huh? What do you think? You sewed a true costume for your 2-year-old? What is a true costume? She wasn't a goblin? Yeah, too bad. So sad. He was already into that. He was hangry. What do you guys think? If that were you, would you do it? Hey, what's up, mate? Fate me? Thanks for the donation. Hey, you don't have to. But thank you so much. If you won't cannibalize for your lady, is it really love? True. True and the Rainbow Kingdom. Okay, that must be some children's program that I don't know of. Depend on the situation. In what situation would you eat a corpse? Maybe if I were lost in the Swiss Alps or something. All right, second story. I think it started off well. What's the second story? Now this I said that I might tempt him, and he made even the answer I desired, by uttering the story which is hereafter set down. Long ago, in the days of a daimyo, whose name has been forgotten, there lived in this old city a young man and a maid, who loved each other very much. Their names are not remembered, but their story remains. From infancy they had been betrothed, and as children they played together, for their parents were neighbors, and as they grew up they became always fonder of each other. Before the youth had become a man, his parents died, but he was able to enter the service of a rich samurai, an officer of high rank, who had been a friend of his people, and his protector soon took him into great favor, seeing him to be courteous, intelligent, and apt at arms. So the young man hoped to find himself shortly in a position that would make it possible for him to marry his betrothed. But war broke out in the north and east, and he was summoned suddenly to follow his master to the field. Before departing, however, he was able to see the girl, and they exchanged pledges in the presence of her parents, and he promised, should he remain alive, to return within a year from that day to marry his betrothed. Sup, Piet me 508? How's it going? Thanks so much for the super chat. Hope for a vid on Japanese swimsuit design. Oh, I should look that up. Should be some fun research. I'll keep that in mind, okay? Alright, so he promised to return within a year to marry the girl. Hopefully it works out, guys. What do you think? After his going, much time passed without news of him, for there was no post in that time as now. The girl grieved so much for thinking of the chances of war that she became all white and thin and weak. Then, at last, she heard of him through a messenger sent from the army to bear news to the daimyo. And once again a letter was brought to her by another messenger, and thereafter there came no word. Long is a year to one who waits, and the year passed, and he did not return. Other seasons passed, and still he did not come, And she thought him dead, and she sickened, and lay down, and died, and was buried. Then her old parents, who had no other child, grieved unspeakably, and came to hate their home for the lonesomeness of it. After a time they resolved to sell all they had, and to set out upon a sengachi, a great pilgrimage to the 1,000 temples of the Nichiren Shu, which requires many years to perform. What's up, Momo no Hunter? Thanks for the... What is that? It's a membership. Hey! Cool. So they sold their small house with all that it contained, excepting the ancestral tablets and the holy things which must never be sold, and the ichai of their buried daughter, which were placed according to the custom of those about to leave their native place in the family temple. Now the family was of the Nichiren Shu, and their temple was Myokoji. They had been gone only 4 days when the young man who had been betrothed to their daughter returned to the city. Of course, he returns after she dies. He had attempted, with the permission of his master, to fulfill his promise, but the provinces upon his way were full of war, and the roads and passes were guarded by troops, and he had been long delayed by many difficulties. And when he heard of his misfortune, he sickened for grief, and many days remained without knowledge of anything, like one about to die. But when he began to recover his strength, all the pain of memory came back again, and he regretted that he had not died. Then he resolved to kill himself upon the grave of his betrothed, and as soon as he was able to go out unobserved, he took his sword and went to the cemetery where the girl was buried. It is a lonesome place, the cemetery of Myokoji. There he found her tomb, and knelt before it, and prayed, and wept, and whispered to her that which he was about to do. And suddenly he heard her voice cry to him, "Anata!" and means you, and felt her hand upon his hand, and he turned and saw her kneeling beside him, smiling, and beautiful as he remembered her, only a little pale. Then his heart leapt so that he could not speak for the wonder and the doubt and the joy of that moment. But she said, "Do not doubt. It is really I. I am not dead. It was all a mistake. I was buried because my people thought me dead. Buried too soon. And my own parents thought me dead and went upon a pilgrimage. Yet, you see, I am not dead, not a ghost. It is I. Do not doubt it. And I have seen your heart, and that was worth all the waiting and the pain. But now let us go away at once to another city, so that people may not know this thing and trouble us, for all still believe me dead." Wait, what does that mean? She's a ghost, right? I think she died. She didn't die, but they buried her, and she died in her grave. I believe this is the ghost. Well, let's see. And they went away, no one observing them, and they went even to the village of Minobu, which is in the province of Kai. For there is a famous temple in the Nichiren Shu in that place, and the girl had said, "I know that in the course of their pilgrimage, my parents will surely visit Minobu, so that if we dwell there, they will find us, and we shall be all again together." And when they came to Minobu, she said, "Let us open a little shop." And they opened a little food shop, oh cute, on the wide way leading to the holy place, and there they sold cakes for children, and toys, and food for pilgrims. For 2 years they so lived and prospered, and there was a son born to them. Yeah, that's interesting because all along like pilgrimage routes and near temples and stuff, temples and shrines, there are always a lot of um merchants and people selling stuff. A lot of marketplaces. Now, when the child was a year and 2 months old, the parents of the wife came in the course of their pilgrimage to Minobu, and they stopped at the little shop to buy food. And seeing their daughter's betrothed, they cried out and wept and asked questions. Then he made them enter and bowed down before them and astonished them, saying, "Truly, as I speak it, your daughter is not dead, and she is my wife, and we have a son, and she is even now within the farther room, lying down with the child. I pray you go in at once and gladden her, for her heart longs for the moment of seeing you again." So while he busied himself in making all the things ready for their comfort, they entered the inner room very softly, the mother first. They found the child asleep, but the mother they did not find. She seemed to have gone out for a little while only. Her pillow was still warm. They waited long for her, then they began to seek her, but never was she seen again. And they understood only when they found beneath the coverings which had covered the mother and child something which they remembered, having left years before in the temple of Myokochi, a little mortuary tablet, the ihai of their buried daughter. Ooh, okay. She was a ghost. Well, thanks, Losh. Super appreciate it. I'll try to keep it up. What's up, Dolphin? How's it going? What is an ikai? I think it's a mortuary tablet. You know the wooden tablets that they write your name on? Oh, since actually I can show it since I am a streamer or YouTuber. Hold on. I hope I can show it. Uh, tablet. Hold on. Hold on. Oh wait, you guys don't even see this. God damn it. God damn it. Alright, hold on. Yeah, something like that. A little mortuary tablet. Yeah. But in the story's case, it would be a wooden one. Poor dude's wife was a ghost. What happened to the kid? So he had a. Oh yeah, that's right. So it's a ghost, but he had a kid with a ghost. How does that work? And now the ghost is gone, so he has to take care of the kid himself. Unfortunately, she was never seen again. She just left her kid and went off to the Pure Land. It's a wholesome story because the guy said all ghost stories were scary or sad. Yeah, true. But now he lost his wife again a second time. Did I already tell the story of the snow woman? Didn't do that yet. Travis, you found the channel 7 years ago. Oh my goodness. That was like when I was just making videos as a hobby. Total hobby. I had a day job and everything. I'm glad you stuck around. That's awesome. He got ghosted. How did he do that with a ghost? Japanese ghosts are different, okay? They're better. All right. Continuing on. Oh, wait, no, that's it. Only 2 stories in that chapter. I suppose I must have looked thoughtful after this tale, for the old man said, "Perhaps the master honorably thinks concerning the story that is foolish. Nay, Kinjuro, the story is in my heart." Your girlfriend at the time showed you? You were in college studying Japanese. How you doing now? Lin command you to sleep? Okay, Greek yogurt. You need to go to sleep. I command you up. YouTube's okay with that, right? All right. I need to put a mark. I need to put a mark here to show that I've read it. Hold on. Can I do this? Okay. The girlfriend didn't stick around, but Linfamy did. True. Travis, I stuck around for you. You know, I'm loyal. Planning to visit Japan next year. Ooh, awesome. Yeah, have fun. All right. What do we want? It's kind of hard to read. I changed the background of this. I didn't want the background to be white because it'll kind of ruin the dark vibe we have. But then that means these links are very hard to read. All right. We have I think we have down here Rokurokubi. How about that? The long-necked yokai. You want a candy bag? How big of a candy bag? Let's go Rokurokubi. Uh-huh. All right, ready? This is our 3rd story. I think there's a Yuki Onna story somewhere in here. All right, Rokurokubi. Nearly 500 years ago, there was a samurai named Isogai Heidaizaimon Taketsura in the service of the Lord Kikuchi of Kyushu. This Isogai had inherited from many warlike ancestors a natural aptitude for military exercises and extraordinary strength. While yet a boy, he had surpassed his teachers in the art of swordsmanship, in archery, and in the use of the spear, and had displayed all the capacities of a daring and skillful soldier. Afterwards, in the time of the Ikkyo War, he so distinguished himself that high honors were bestowed upon him. But when the house of Kikuchi came to ruin, Isogai found himself without a master. He might then easily have obtained services under another daimyo, but as he had never sought distinction for his own sake alone, and as his heart remained true to his former lord, he preferred to give up the world. So he cut off his hair and became a traveling priest, taking the Buddhist name of Kwairyo. Wait, are you okay with this font size? What if I increase it? Oh, wait. If I increase this, I need to do... Wait. Oh, no. Hold on. What? What? What if I do this? uh... Okay. Okay. What if I do this? Oh, no. Screwed it up. Okay. The first video you saw was the one about the sword Kusanagi? Oh. Yeah, I remember that one. That was a while ago. Yeah, brings back memories. You're more concerned with it being easier for me to read? It's pretty good. I think I'm good. Alright, sorry. Anyways, continuing on. So he became a priest, the samurai. His name is Kwairyo. You gonna lay down and listen? Alright. But always, under the koromo of the priest, Kwairyo kept warm within him the heart of the samurai. The koromo would be the outfit, the robe. Yep. As in other years, he had laughed at peril. So now also he scorned danger. And in all weathers and all the seasons, he journeyed to preach the good law in places where no other priest would have dared to go. For that age was an age of violence and disorder. And upon the highways there was no security for the solitary traveler, even if he happened to be a priest. In the course of his first long journey, Kwairyo had occasion to visit the province of Kai. One evening, as he was traveling through the mountains of that province, darkness overcame him in a very lonesome district, leagues away from any village. So he resigned himself to pass the night under the stars, and, having found a suitable grassy spot by the roadside, he lay down there and prepared to sleep. He had always welcomed discomfort, and even a bare rock was for him a good bed when nothing better could be found. And the root of a pine tree an excellent pillow. His body was iron, and he never troubled himself about the dews or rain or frost or snow. Scarcely had he lain down when a man came along the road, carrying an axe and a great bundle of chopped wood. This woodcutter halted on seeing Kwairyo lying down, and, after a moment of silent observation, said to him in a tone of great surprise, "What kind of a man can you be, good sir, that you dare to lie down alone in such a place as this? There are haunters out about here, many of them. Are you not afraid of hairy things?" "My friend," cheerfully answered Kwairyo, "I am only a wandering priest, a cloud and water guest, as folks call it, unsui no ryokaku, and I am not in the least afraid of hairy things. If you mean goblin foxes, or goblin badgers, or any creatures of that kind, as for lonesome places, I like them. They are suitable for meditation. I am accustomed to sleeping in the open air, and I have learned never to be anxious about my life." You must be indeed a brave man, sir priest, the peasant responded, to lie down here. This place has a bad name, a very bad name, but, as the proverb has it, the superior man does not needlessly expose himself to peril, and I must assure you, sir, that it is very dangerous to sleep here. Therefore, although my house is only a wretched thatched hut, let me beg of you to come home with me at once. In the way of food, I have nothing to offer you, but there is a roof at least, and you can sleep under it without risk. He spoke earnestly, and Quairio, liking the kindly tone of the man, accepted his modest offer. The woodcutter guided him along a narrow path leading up from the main road through mountain forest. It was a rough and dangerous path, sometimes skirting precipices, sometimes offering nothing but a network of slippery roots for the foot to rest upon, sometimes winding over or between masses of jagged rock. But at last Quairio found himself upon a cleared space at the top of a hill, with a full moon shining overhead, and he saw before him a small thatched cottage, cheerfully lighted from within. The woodcutter led him to a shed at the back of the house, whither water had been conducted through bamboo pipes from some neighboring stream, and the two men washed their feet. All right. Beyond the shed was a vegetable garden, and a grove of cedars and bamboos, and beyond the trees appeared the glimmer of a cascade, pouring from some loftier height, and swaying in the moonshine like a long white robe. As Quairio entered the cottage with his guide, he perceived 4 persons, men and women, warming their hands at a little fire kindled in the row of the principal apartment. The row would be the fireplace in the middle? Yeah, the middle fireplace thing. They bowed low to the priest and greeted him in the most respectful manner. Quairio wondered that persons so poor and dwelling in such a solitude should be aware of the polite forms of greeting. These are good people, he thought to himself, and they must have been taught by someone well acquainted with the rules of propriety. Then, turning to his host, the Aruji, or housemaster, as the others called him, Quairio said, "From the kindness of your speech, and from the very polite welcome given me by your household, I imagine that you have not always been a woodcutter. Perhaps you formerly belonged to one of the upper classes?" Smiling, the woodcutter answered, "Sir, you are not mistaken. Though now living as you find me, I was once a person of some distinction. My story is the story of a ruined life, ruined by my own fault. I used to be in the service of a daimyo, and my rank in that service was not inconsiderable. But I loved women and wine too well, and under the influence of passion, I acted wickedly. My selfishness brought about the ruin of our house and caused the death of many persons. Retribution followed me, and I long remained a fugitive in the land. Now I often pray that I may be able to make some atonement for the evil which I did, and to re-establish the ancestral home. But I fear that I shall never find any way of doing so. Nevertheless, I try to overcome the karma of my errors by sincere repentance, and by helping, as far as I can, those who are unfortunate." Okay. He's a reformed guy. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, there was a ghost. I had to take care of it. Killed it. Quairio was pleased by this announcement of good resolve, and he said to the Aruji, "My friend, I have had occasion to observe that man prone to folly in their youth may in after years become very earnest in right living. In the Holy Sutras, it is written that those strongest in wrongdoing can become, by power of good resolve, the strongest in right doing. I do not doubt that you have a good heart, and I hope that better fortune will come to you. Tonight I shall recite the sutras for your sake, and pray that you may obtain the force to overcome the karma of any past errors. With these assurances, Kwairyō bade the Aruji good night, and his host showed him to a very small side room, where a bed had been made ready. Then all went to sleep except the priest, who began to read the sutras by the light of a paper lantern. Until a late hour, he continued to read and pray. Then he opened a little window in his little sleeping room to take a last look at the landscape before lying down. The night was beautiful. There was no cloud in the sky. There was no wind, and the strong moonlight threw down sharp black shadows of foliage and glittered on the dews of the garden. Shrillings of crickets and bell insects made a musical tumult, and the sound of the neighboring cascade deepened with the night. Kwairyō felt thirsty as he listened to the noise of the water, and remembering the bamboo aqueduct at the rear of the house, he thought that he could go there and get a drink without disturbing the sleeping household. Very gently he pushed apart the sliding screens that separated his room from the main apartment. He saw, by the light of the lantern, 5 recumbent bodies without heads. For one instant he stood bewildered, imagining a crime, but in another moment he perceived that there was no blood, and that the headless necks did not look as if they had been cut. Then he thought to himself, "Either this is an illusion made by goblins, or I have been lured into the dwelling of a Rokurokubi. In the book Soshinki, it is written that if one finds the body of a Rokurokubi without its head and remove the body to another place, the head will never be able to join itself again to the neck. And the book further says that when the head comes back and finds that its body has been moved, it will strike itself upon the floor 3 times, bounding like a ball, and will pant as if in great fear, and presently die. Now, if these be Rokurokubi, they mean me no good, so I shall be justified in following the instructions of the book." Uh-oh. He seized the body of the Aruji by the feet, pulled it to the window, and pushed it out. Then he went to the back door, which he found barred, and he surmised that the heads had made their exit through the smoke hole in the roof, which had been left open. Gently unbarring the door, he made his way to the garden, and proceeded with all possible caution to the grove beyond it. He heard voices talking in the grove, and he went in the direction of the voices, stealing from shadow to shadow, until he reached a good hiding place. Then, from behind a trunk, he saw sight of the heads, all 5 of them, flitting about and chatting as they flitted. They were eating worms and insects which they found on the ground or among the trees. Presently, the head of the Aruji stopped eating and said, that traveling priest who came tonight, how fat all his body is! When we shall have eaten him, our bellies will be well filled. I was foolish to talk to him as I did. It only set him to reciting the sutras on behalf of my soul. To go near him while he is reciting would be difficult, and we cannot touch him so long as he is praying. But as it is now nearly morning, perhaps he has gone to sleep. Some one of you go to the house and see what the fellow is doing." Oh no. Another head, the head of a young woman, immediately rose up and flitted to the house lightly as a bat. After a few minutes it came back and cried out huskily, in a tone of great alarm, That traveling priest is not in the house. He is gone. But that is not the worst of the matter. He has taken the body of our Aruji, and I do not know where he has put it. At this announcement, the head of the Aruji, distinctly visible in the moonlight, assumed a frightful aspect. Its eyes opened monstrously, its hair stood bristling, and its teeth gnashed. Then a cry burst from its lips, and, weeping tears of rage, it exclaimed, "Since my body has been moved, to rejoin it is not possible. Then I must die, and all through the work of that priest. Before I die, I will get at that priest. I will tear him. I will devour him. And there he is, behind that tree, hiding behind that tree. See him, the fat coward." In the same moment, the head of the Aruji, followed by the other 4 heads, sprang at Kwairyo, but the strong priest had already armed himself by plucking up a young tree, and with that tree he struck the heads as they came, knocking them from him with tremendous blows. 4 of them fled away, but the head of the Aruji, though battered again and again, desperately continued to bound at the priest, and at last caught him by the left sleeve of his robe. Kwairyo, however, as quickly gripped the head by its top knot, and repeatedly struck it. It did not release its hold, but it uttered a long moan, and thereafter ceased to struggle. It was dead, but its teeth still held the sleeve, and for all his great strength, Kwairyo could not force open the jaws. With the head still hanging to his sleeve, he went back to the house, and there caught sight of the other 4 Rokurokubi squatting together, with their bruised and bleeding heads reunited to their bodies. But when they perceived him at the back door, all screamed, "The priest! The priest!" and fled through the other doorway out into the woods. Eastward, the sky was brightening. Day was about to dawn, and Kwairyo knew that the power of the goblins was limited to the hours of darkness. He looked at the head clinging to his sleeve, its face all fouled with blood and foam and clay, and he laughed aloud as he thought to himself, "What a miyage! The head of a goblin!" Miyage is a present made to friends or to the household on returning from a journey. Like a souvenir. After which he gathered together his few belongings and leisurely descended the mountain to continue his journey. Right on he journeyed until he came to Suwa in Shinano, and into the main street of Suwa he solemnly strode, with the head dangling at his elbow. Then women fainted and children screamed and ran away, and there was a great crowding and clamoring until the torite, as the police in those days were called, seized the priest and took him to jail. For they supposed the head to be the head of a murdered man, who, in the moment of being killed, had caught the murderer's sleeve in his teeth. Oh no. One sec. I've been caught by a ghost. Ah. Camera died. And we're back. And now we're upside down. Ooh. On the ceiling. Whoa. Okay, we're good. Okay. Oh no, they took him to jail. I thought he was a murderer. recite Buddhist sutra quick. All right. For they suppose the head to be the head of a murdered man, who, in the moment of being killed, had caught the murderer's sleeve in his teeth. As for the Kwairyo, he only smiled and said nothing when they questioned him. So, after having passed a night in prison, he was brought before the magistrates of the district. Then he was ordered to explain how he, a priest, had been found with the head of a man fastened to his sleeve, and why he had dared thus shamelessly to parade his crime in the sight of people. Oh, look! There's a little picture. Hey, cute. Although this Roku Rokubi is not the same as the version that we're reading. Because in the one that we're reading, the head is totally detached from their necks. Kwairyo laughed long and loudly at these questions, and then he said, Sir, I did not fasten the head to my sleeve. It fastened itself there, much against my will, and I have not committed any crime, for this is not the head of a man, it is the head of a goblin. Okay, goblin in this case would be a yokai. And if I caused the death of the goblin, I did not do so by any shedding of blood, but simply by taking the precautions necessary to assure my own safety. And he proceeded to relate the whole of the adventure, bursting into another hearty laugh as he told of his encounter with the 5 heads. But the magistrates did not laugh. They did not find that funny. They judged him to be a hardened criminal, and his story an insult to their intelligence. Therefore, without further questioning, they decided to order his immediate execution, all of them except one, a very old man. This aged officer had made no remark during the trial, but after having heard the opinion of his colleagues, he rose up and said, Let us first examine the head carefully, for this, I think, has not yet been done. If the priest has spoken truth, the head itself should bear witness for him. Bring the head here. So the head, still holding in its teeth the koromo that had been stripped from Kwairyo's shoulders, was put before the judges. The old man turned it round and round, carefully examined it, and discovered on the nape of its neck several strange red characters. He called the attention of his colleagues to these, and also bade them observe that the edges of the neck nowhere presented the appearance of having been cut by any weapon. On the contrary, the line of leverance was smooth as the line at which a falling leaf detaches itself from the stem. Then said the elder, I am quite sure that the priest told us nothing but the truth. This is the head of a Roku Rokubi. In the book Nan Hoi Butsushi, it is written that certain red characters can always be found upon the nape of the neck of a real Roku Rokubi. There are the characters. You can see for yourselves that they have not been painted. Moreover, it is well known that such goblins have been dwelling in the mountains of the province of Kai from very ancient time. But you, sir, he exclaimed, turning to Kwairyo, what sort of sturdy priest may you be? Certainly you have given proof of a courage that few priests possess, and you have the air of a soldier rather than a priest. Perhaps you once belonged to the samurai class? You have guessed rightly, sir, Kwairyo responded. Before becoming a priest, I long followed the profession of arms, and in those days I never feared man or devil. My name then was Isugai Hidazaimon Taketsura of Kyushu. There may be some among you who remember it. At the mention of that name, a murmur of admiration filled the courtroom, for there were many present who remembered it, and Quairio immediately found himself among friends instead of judges, friends anxious to prove their admiration by fraternal kindness. With honor, they escorted him to the residence of the daimyo, who welcomed him and feasted him, and made him a handsome present before allowing him to depart. When Quairio left Suwa, he was as happy as any priest is permitted to be in this transitory world. As for the head, he took it with him, jocosely, what? Jocosely? Insisting that he intended it for a miyage. Ah, so he's still walking around with the head. Oh wait, the story continues. And now it only remains to tell what became of the head. A day or two after leaving Suwa, Quairio met with a robber who stopped him in a lonesome place and bade him strip. Wait, why did they put it this way? Quairio met with a robber. He got robbed. He got ambushed by a robber, right? Quairio at once removed his koromo and offered it to the robber, who then first perceived what was hanging to the sleeve. Though brave, the highwayman was startled. He dropped the garment and sprang back. Then he cried out, "You! What kind of a priest are you? Why, you are a worse man than I am. It is true that I have killed people, but I never walked about with anybody's head fastened to my sleeve. Well, Sir Priest, I suppose we are of the same calling, and I must say that I admire you. Now, that head would be of use to me. I could frighten people with it. Will you sell it? You can have my robe in exchange for your koromo, and I will give you 5 ryo for the head." Yeah, this guy just really wants the head. Quairio answered, "I shall let you have the head and the robe if you insist, but I must tell you that this is not the head of a man. It is a goblin's head. So if you buy it and have any trouble in consequence, please to remember that you are not deceived by me." "What a nice priest you are!" exclaimed the robber. "You kill men and jest about it. But I am really in earnest. Here is my robe, and here is the money, and let me have the head. What is the use of joking?" "Take the thing," said Quairio. "I was not joking. The only joke, if there be any joke at all, is that you are fool enough to pay good money for a goblin's head." I mean, I would pay for it. And Quairio, loudly laughing, went upon his way. Thus the robber got the head and the koromo, and for some time he played goblin priest upon the highways. But reaching the neighborhood of Suwa, he there learned the true story of the head, and he then became afraid that the spirit of the Rokurokubi might give him trouble. So he made up his mind to take back the head to the place from which it had come, and to bury it with his body. He found his way to the lonely cottage in the mountains of Kai, but nobody was there, and he could not discover the body. Therefore he buried the head by itself in the grove behind the cottage, and he had a tombstone set up over the grave, and he caused a segaki service to be performed on behalf of the spirit of the Rokurokubi. And that tombstone, known as the Tombstone of the Rokurokubi, may be seen, at least so the Japanese storyteller declares, even unto this day. All right. How did you like that? It's more spooky upside down. Want me to put myself upside down now? I don't know if I can recreate that though. Oh, thanks so much, Kabiohime. You're so awesome. Good ending. Okay. I thought the robber something was going to happen to the robber. But I guess he was all right. He went around robbing people and scaring people. Oh my god, he went around trick-or-treating! Did he get any candy? What about the other 4? Yeah, the priest just left the other 4. Left them to go roaming around and killing other people. He says, it's okay. As long as they didn't get me. Alright. Some kids are knocking on my door. Shh, shh, quiet, quiet. We're not here. All the lights are off. Why are they knocking? My lights are off. Don't let them get me. I have no candy. No candy to give out. All right. That was a cool story. The candy bag was party favor size. Awesome. That's a huge bag. Congratulations. You were expecting the other monsters to find the robber? Yeah. What? He just introduced a robber and nothing happened to him. Alright, what about Yuki Onna? Want to do that? That would be a good next story. Boop. 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 Alright. I think this is a pretty famous story. Oh, the little bags you get at parties, not like a party-sized bag. Gotcha. All right, Yuki Onna. In a village of Musashi province, there lived 2 woodcutters, Mosaku and Minokichi. At the time of which I am speaking, Mosaku was an old man, and Minokichi, his apprentice, was a lad of 18 years. Every day they went together to a forest situated about 5 miles from their village. On the way to that forest, there is a wide river to cross, and there is a ferry boat. Several times a bridge was built where the ferry is, but the bridge was each time carried away by a flood. No common bridge can resist the current where the river rises. Mosaku and Minokichi were on their way home one very cold evening when a great snowstorm overtook them. They reached the ferry, and they found that the boatman had gone away, leaving his boat on the other side of the river. It was no day for swimming, and the woodcutters took shelter in the ferryman's hut, thinking themselves lucky to find any shelter at all. There was no brazier in the hut, nor any place in which to make a fire. It was only a 2-mat hut, with a single door, but no window. Mosaku and Minokichi fastened the door and lay down to rest, with their straw raincoats over them. At first, they did not feel very cold, and they thought that the storm would soon be over. The old man almost immediately fell asleep, but the boy, Minokichi, lay awake a long time, listening to the awful wind and the continual slashing of the snow against the door. The river was roaring, and the hut swayed and creaked like a junk at sea. It was a terrible storm, and the air was every moment becoming colder, and Minokichi shivered under his raincoat. But at last, in spite of the cold, he too fell asleep. He He was awakened by a showering of snow in his face. The door of the hut had been forced open, and by the snowlight, Yuki Akari, he saw a woman in the room, a woman all in white. She was bending above Mosaku and blowing her breath upon him, and her breath was like a bright white smoke. Almost in the same moment, she turned to Minokichi and stooped over him. He tried to cry out, but found that he could not utter any sound. The white woman bent down over him, lower and lower, until her face almost touched him, and he saw that she was very beautiful, though her eyes made him afraid. For a little time, she continued to look at him. Then she smiled, and she whispered, "I intended to treat you like the other man, but I cannot help feeling some pity for you, because you are so young. You are a very pretty boy, Minokichi, and I will not hurt you now. But if you ever tell anybody, even your own mother, about what you have seen this night, I shall know it, and then I will kill you. Remember what I say." With these words, she turned from him and passed through the doorway. Then he found himself able to move, and he sprang up and looked out. But the woman was nowhere to be seen, and the snow was driving furiously into the hut. Minokichi closed the door and secured it by fixing several billets of wood against it. He wondered if the wind had blown it open. He thought that he might have been only dreaming, and might have mistaken the gleam of the snowlight in the doorway for the figure of a white woman, but he could not be sure. He called to Mosaku, and was frightened because the old man did not answer. He put out his hand in the dark and touched Mosaku's face, and found that it was ice. Mosaku was stark and dead. By dawn, the storm was over, and when the ferryman returned to his station a little after sunrise, he found Minokichi lying senseless beside the frozen body of Mosaku. Minokichi was promptly cared for, and soon came to himself. But he remained a long time ill from the effects of the cold of that terrible night. He had been greatly frightened also by the old man's death, but he said nothing about the vision of the woman in white. As soon as he got well again, he returned to his calling, going alone every morning to the forest, and coming back at nightfall with his bundles of wood, which his mother helped him to sell. One evening in the winter of the following year, as he was on his way home, he overtook a girl who happened to be traveling by the same road. She was a tall, slim girl, very good-looking, and she answered Minokichi's greeting in a voice as pleasant to the ear as the voice of a songbird. Then he walked beside her, and they began to talk. The girl said that her name was Oyuki. This name signifying snow is not uncommon. Okay? So her name was Oyuki, that she had lately lost both of her parents, and that she was going to Yero. I think that was what Edo was called back then, where she happened to have some poor relations who might help her to find a situation as a servant. Minokichi soon felt charmed by this strange girl, and the more that he looked at her, the handsomer she appeared to be. He asked her whether she was yet betrothed, and she answered laughingly that she was free. Then, in her turn, she asked Minokichi whether he was married or pledged to marry. He told her that, although he had only a widowed mother to support, the question of an honorable daughter-in-law had not yet been considered, as he was very young. After these confidences, they walked on for a long while without speaking. But, as the proverb declares, When the wish is there, the eyes can say as much as the mouth. By the time they reached the village, they had become very much pleased with each other. And then Minokichi asked Oyuki to rest a while at his house. After some shy hesitation, she went there with him, and his mother made her welcome and prepared a warm meal for her. No, that means you get married, right? Oyuki behaved so nicely that Minokichi's mother took a sudden fancy to her and persuaded her to delay her journey to Yedo. And the natural end of the matter was that And the natural end of the matter was that Yuki never went to Yedo at all. She remained in the house as an honorable daughter-in-law. Oh, what a nice, wholesome story. I bet they live for happily ever after. Oyuki proved a very good daughter-in-law. When Minokichi's mother came to die, some 5 years later, her last words were words of affection and praise for the wife of her son. And Oyuki bore Minokichi 10 children, boys and girls, handsome children all of them, and very fair of skin. The country folk thought Oyuki a wonderful person, by nature different from themselves. Most of the peasant women age early, but Oyuki, even after having become the mother of 10 children, looked as young and fresh as on the day when she had first come to the village. Damn, they got very busy. 10 children. What's up, Bontel? Bontel Sakong? Ten kids in 5 years. I remember when I made this video, I misspoke and I said she had 10 kids in 1 year. But when I uploaded it, it was too late. I was like, oh no. That does not make sense at all. Hey, Piet Me. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Will I read Brandon Santiago's Irma graphic novel? I have no idea. Is it Japan related? It doesn't seem like it. All right. All right. So they had 10 kids. One night, after the children had gone to sleep, Oyuki was sewing by the light of a paper lamp, and Minokichi, watching her, said, "To see you sewing there with the light on your face makes me think of a strange thing that happened when I was a lad of 18. I then saw somebody as beautiful and white as you are now. Indeed, she was very like you." Without lifting her eyes from her work, Oyuki responded, "Tell me about her. Where did you see her?" Then Minokichi told her about the terrible night in the ferryman's hut, and about the white woman that had stooped above him, smiling and whispering, and about the silent death of old Mosaku. And he said, "Asleep or awake, that was the only time that I saw a being as beautiful as you. Of course, she was not a human being, and I was afraid of her, very much afraid, but she was so white. Indeed, I have never been sure whether it was a dream that I saw, or the woman of the snow." Oyuki flung down her sewing and arose, and bowed above Minokichi, where he sat, and shrieked into his face, "It was I! Yuki it was! And I told you then that I would kill you if you ever said one word about it. But for those children asleep there, I would kill you this moment. And now you had better take very, very good care of them, for if ever they have a reason to complain of you, I will treat you as you deserve." Even as she screamed, her voice became thin, like a crying of wind. Then she melted into a bright white mist that spired to the roof beams and shuddered away through the smoke hole. Never again was she seen. Yay. Our boy just sealed his fate. Fate me! Thank you so much. All right, you going to bed? All right, have a good night. A video about Japanese law justice systems through history? Yeah, that is very complex. I'll think about it, okay? I think I made some videos about a few of the government like government structures and stuff. You can fix her? All right. How'd you guys like that? Hmm. Yeah, so apparently in Japan, ghosts can have kids with you. A lot of them. Like she had. So this story says 10 kids in 5 years, right? Which like no one was kind of suspicious unless she had like twins every year. Woodcutters sounds good to you? It's twins every year? Hmm. All right. Was that the chapter? Yeah, that was our Yuki Onna. Can women get pregnant from male ghosts? Oh, I don't know. Have I ever read a story like that? I don't think so. It's always the other way around. I would like to hear that though. Sounds like the Selkie stories where the husband breaks a very specific rule and the seal woman goes back to the sea with her kids. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of stories where a person breaks the rules, right? He was told the rules in the beginning and then for some reason or another, he breaks it in the middle. The poor guy's left all alone raising 10 kids. I know. These ghosts are not responsible mothers. Already 2 stories of mothers just leaving their kids. All right. What should we read next? Ricky Babka. Ricky Baka? Ricky Baka? The Mirror Maiden. That sounds nice. The Mirror Maiden. In a cup of tea. Happy Halloween! Alright, you know what? Mirror Maiden sounds pretty good. Let's do it. Alright. The Mirror Maiden. In the period of the Ashikaga shogunate, the shrine of Ogawachi Myojin at Minami Ise fell into decay, and the daimyo of this district, the Lord Kitahatake, found himself unable, by reason of war and other circumstances, to provide for the reparation of the building. Then the Shinto priest in charge, Matsumura Hyogo, sought help at Kyoto from the great daimyo Hosokawa, that's a lot of names, who was known to have influence with the shogun. The Lord Hosokawa received the priest kindly and promised to speak to the shogun about the condition of Ogawachi Myojin. But he said that, in any event, a grant for the restoration of the temple could not be made without due investigation and considerable delay, and he advised Matsumura to remain in the capital while the matter was being arranged. Matsumura therefore brought his family to Kyoto and rented a house in the old Kyogoku quarter. This house, although handsome and spacious, had been long unoccupied. It was said to be an unlucky house. On the northeast side of it there was a well, and several former tenants had drowned themselves in that well without any known cause. But Matsumura, being a Shinto priest, had no fear of evil spirits, and he soon made himself very comfortable in his new home. In the summer of that year there was a great drought. For months no rain had fallen in the 5 home provinces. The river beds dried up, the wells failed, and even in the capital there was a dearth of water. But the well in Matsumura's garden remained nearly full, and the water, which was very cold and clear, with a faint bluish tinge, seemed to be supplied by a spring. During the hot season, many people came from all parts of the city to beg for water, and Matsumura allowed them to draw as much as they pleased. Nevertheless, the supply did not appear to be diminished. That's a useful well. But one morning, the dead body of a young servant who had been sent from a neighboring residence to fetch water was found floating in the well. No cause for a suicide could be imagined, and Matsumura, remembering many unpleasant stories about the well, began to suspect some invisible malevolence. He went to examine the well with the intention of having a fence built around it, and while standing there alone, he was startled by a sudden motion in the water, as of something alive. The motion soon ceased, and then he perceived, clearly reflected in the still surface, the figure of a young woman, apparently about 19 or 20 years of age. She seemed to be occupied with her toilet. Excuse me? He distinctly saw her touching her lips with Benny. Excuse me? The rouge. She seemed to be occupied with her toilet. Does that mean what I think it means? It can't be. This is her mouth lips, right? Wait, is this a term that I'm not familiar with? She's occupied with her toilet. Okay. I'm gonna move past that. I'm just gonna assume that she's putting on makeup. What? Okay, sorry. Threw me for a loop. At first, wait, Alkanok says just an old way of saying she was getting herself made up. Is that right? Or that's gotta be a translation. Fuck it. I'm gonna assume that it was a way of saying that. Okay, she's just putting on makeup. Toilet used to mean getting cleaned up, washing your face, and getting ready for the day. Oh, thanks so much. I see. Old use of the word. Okay. I see. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, chat. Anyways, I was having dirty thoughts. At first, her face was visible in profile only, but presently she turned towards him and smiled. Immediately he felt a strange shock at his heart, and a dizziness came upon him like the dizziness of wine, and everything became dark except that smiling face, white and beautiful as moonlight, and always seeming to grow more beautiful, and to be drawing him down, down, down into the darkness. But with a desperate effort, he recovered his will and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the face was gone, and the light had returned, and he found himself leaning down over the curb of the well. A moment more of that dizziness, a moment more of that dazzling lure, and he would never again have looked upon the sun. Returning to the house, he gave orders to his people not to approach the well under any circumstances, or allow any person to draw water from it, and the next day he had a strong fence built around the well. About a week after the fence had been built, the long drought was broken by a great rainstorm, accompanied by wind and lightning and thunder, thunder so tremendous that the whole city shook to the rolling of it, as if shaken by an earthquake. For 3 days and 3 nights, the downpour and the lightnings and the thunder continued, and the Kamogawa rose as it had never risen before, carrying away many bridges. During the third night of the storm, at the hour of the ox, there was heard a knocking at the door of the priest's dwelling, and the voice of a woman pleading for admittance. But Matsumura, warned by his experience at the well, forbade his servants to answer the appeal. He went himself to the entrance and asked, "Who calls?" A feminine voice responded, "Pardon, it is I, Yayoi. I have something to say to Matsumura-sama, something of great moment. Please open." Matsumura half opened the door very cautiously, and he saw the same beautiful face that had smiled upon him from the well. But it was not smiling now. It had a very sad look. "Into my house you shall not come," the priest exclaimed. "You are not a human being, but a well person. Why do you thus wickedly try to delude and destroy people?" The well person made an answer in a voice musical as the tinkling of jewels. Okay, I don't know how to do that. "It is of that very matter that I want to speak. I have never wished to injure human beings, but from ancient time a poisoned dragon dwelt in that well. He was the master of the well, and because of him the well was always full. Long ago I fell into the water there, and so became subject to him, and he had power to make me lure people to death, in order that he might drink their blood. But now the heavenly ruler has commanded the dragon to dwell hereafter in the lake called Tori no Ike in the province of Shinshu, and the gods have decided that he shall never be allowed to return to this city. So tonight, after he had gone away, I was able to come out to beg for your kindly help. There is now very little water in the well because of the dragon's departure, and if you will order search to be made, my body will be found there. I pray to you to save my body from the well without delay, and I shall certainly return your benevolence." So saying, she vanished into the night. All right, what do you guys think? Is she telling the truth or not? Before dawn, the tempest had passed, and when the sun arose, there was no trace of cloud in the pure blue sky. Matsumura sent an early hour for cleaners to search the well. Then, to everybody's surprise, the well proved to be almost dry. It was easily cleaned, and at the bottom of it were found some hair ornaments of a very ancient fashion, and a metal mirror of curious form, but no trace of any body, animal or human. Matsumura imagined, however, that the mirror might yield some explanation of the mystery, for every such mirror is a weird thing, having a soul of its own. And the soul of a mirror is feminine. This mirror, which seemed to be very old, was deeply crusted with scurf, but when it had been carefully cleaned by the priest's order, it proved to be of rare and costly workmanship, and there were wonderful designs upon the back of it, also several characters. Some of the characters had become indistinguishable, but there could still be discerned part of a date, and ideographs signifying third month, the third day. Now, the third month used to be termed Yayoi, meaning the month of increase, and the third day of the third month, which is a festival day, is still called Yayoi no Sekku. Remembering that the well person called herself Yayoi, Matsumura felt almost sure that his ghostly visitant had been none other than the soul of the mirror. He therefore resolved to treat the mirror with all the consideration due to a spirit. After having caused it to be carefully repolished and resilvered, he had a case of precious wood made for it, and a particular room in the house prepared to receive it. On the evening of the same day that it had been respectfully deposited in that room, Yayoi herself unexpectedly appeared before the priest as he sat alone in his study. She looked even more lovely than before, but the light of her beauty was now soft as the light of a summer moon shining through pure white clouds. After having humbly saluted Matsumura, she said in her sweetly tinkling voice, "Now that you have saved me from solitude and sorrow, I have come to thank you. I am indeed, as you supposed, the spirit of the mirror. It was in the time of the Emperor Saimei that I was first brought here from Kudara, and I dwelt in the august residence until the time of the Emperor Saga, when I was augustly bestowed upon the Lady Kamo, Naishino of the imperial court. Thereafter, I became an heirloom in the house of Fujiwara, and so remained until the period of Hogen, when I was dropped into the well. There I was left and forgotten during the years of the Great War. The master of the well was a venomous dragon who used to live in a lake that once covered a great part of this district. After the lake had been filled in by government order, in order that houses might be built upon the place of it, the dragon took possession of the well, and when I fell into the well, I became subject to him, and he compelled me to lure many people to their deaths. But the gods have banished him forever. Now, I have one more favor to beseech. I entreat that you will cause me to be offered up to the shogun, the Lord Yoshimasa, who by descent is related to my former possessors. Do me but this last great kindness, and it will bring you good fortune. But I have also to warn you of a danger. In this house, after tomorrow, you must not stay, because it will be destroyed." And with these words of warning, Yayoi disappeared. And ghosts are very wordy, aren't they? Matsumura was able to profit by this premonition. He removed his people and his belongings to another district the next day, and almost immediately afterwards another storm arose, even more violent than the first, causing a flood which swept away the house in which he had been residing. Some time later, by favor of the Lord Hosokawa, Matsumura was enabled to obtain an audience of the shogun Yoshimasa, to whom he presented the mirror, together with a written account of its wonderful history. Then the prediction of the spirit of the mirror was fulfilled, for the shogun, greatly pleased with this strange gift, not only bestowed costly presents upon Matsumura, but also made an ample grant of money for the rebuilding of the temple of Ogawachi Myojin. Okay. How did you guys like that? That was a wholesome story. A nice story. It seems like at the end of these stories, the ghost lady, the ghost woman, always disappears. They never stick around. These ghost women, can't rely on them. Can't count on them. Wait, let me put. It was okay. Yeah, not much happened, huh? It's all that being dead. Yeah, you tend to go away when you're dead. True. All right, let's see. Let's see what looks interesting. In cholera time. That looks interesting. The Eternal Haunter. Ningyo oh no Haka. Oh, this is a mermaid story. Why don't we do that? Yeah. Ningyo. This is a Japanese mermaid. Yeah. They're very different from Western European mermaids. Very much different. All right, do I need more water? Think I'm good. Are there any stories where women aren't evil? Women bad is a big theme. Yeah. Yuki Onna wasn't bad. She just didn't like people who don't keep their word. He made a promise. He broke it. All right, well, Ningyo. Maybe this mermaid story will be one where the woman is not evil. But in the last story, that woman wasn't evil. She was a mirror. Yes. Happy Halloween. All right, I've only had one knock on the door tonight. Okay. I think we're good. I think we've successfully hidden from the trick-or-treaters. All right. Ningyo no Haka. Manyemon had coaxed the child indoors and made her eat. She appeared to be about 11 years old, intelligent, and pathetically docile. Her name was Ine, which means springing rice, and her frail slimness made the name seem appropriate. Ursula would have been in real trouble if Ariel had been a Japanese mermaid. Hell yeah. Did you guys? Oh, I made a video about a Japanese mermaid. I really like the thumbnail. Wait, hold on, let me see if I can find it. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Can I find it? Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Let me do a window capture. Hmm. Oh, oh, wait. Nah. I'm a little bit fond of this thumbnail. I like it. There you go. That's a Japanese mermaid. All right. When she began, under Manyemon's gentle persuasion, to tell her story, I anticipated something queer from the accompanying change in her voice. She spoke in a high, thin, sweet tone, perfectly even, a tone changeless and unemotional, as the chanting of the little kettle over its charcoal bed. Not unfrequently in Japan, one may hear a girl or a woman utter something touching or cruel or terrible in such a steady, level, penetrating tone, but never anything indifferent. It always means that feeling is being kept under control. She's a fish. Yeah, you think so? Mhm. Oh, damn it. Gotta do a little girl's voice. Okay, a steady, level, penetrating tone, but a little girl's voice. There were 6 of us at home, said Ine. Mother and father's mother, who was very old, and my brother and myself, and a little sister. Father was a hyoguya, a paper hanger. He papered sliding screens and also mounted kakemono. Mother was a hairdresser. My brother was apprenticed to a seal cutter. Father and mother did well. Mother made even more money than father. We had good clothes and good food, and we never had any real sorrow until father fell sick. It was the middle of the hot season. Father had always been healthy. We did not think that his sickness was dangerous, and he did not think so himself. But the very next day he died. We were very much surprised. Mother tried to hide her heart and to wait upon her customers as before, but she was not very strong, and the pain of father's death came too quickly. 8 days after father's funeral, mother also died. It was so sudden that everybody wondered. Then the neighbors told us that we must make a ningyo no haka at once, or else there would be another death in our house. My brother said they were right, and he put off doing what they told him. Perhaps he did not have money enough. I do not know, but the haka was not made. What is a ningyo no haka? I interrupted. I think, Manyemon made answer, that you have seen many ningyo no haka without knowing what they were. They look just like graves of children. It is believed that when two of a family die in the same year, a third also must soon die. There is a saying, always three graves. So when two out of one family have been buried in the same year, a third grave is made next to the graves of those two, and in it is put a coffin containing only a little figure of straw, wara ningyo, and over that grave a small tombstone is set up, bearing a kaimyo. Okay. Different ningyo. False alarm. Hmm. Alright, I gotta look it up now. Ningyo no Haka. Do I like Mushishishi? Oh, I watched a few episodes of that a long time ago. I thought it was very pleasant. Wait, when I search Ningyo no Haka, all I get are Japanese mermaids. Oh, I like this one. Wait, hold on. Boop, 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 boop. Look at this guy. Hell yeah. That's good. Ningyo. Ningyo doll? So like a, maybe, yeah, a little straw doll. Oh. One of these? Hold on. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool, cool, cool. That's a deep sea mermaid. Yeah. The priests of the temple to which the graveyard belongs to. Wait. The priests of the temple to which the graveyard belongs write the kaimyo for these little gravestones. By making a ningyo no haka, it is thought. Wait, sorry. Little girl's voice. It is thought that a death may be prevented. We listen for the rest. Wait, hold on. All right. The I here is the narrator. This is Manyemon talking, not Ine, the little girl. All right. Reset the voice. The child resumed. There were still four of us: grandmother, mother, my brother, myself, and my little sister. My brother was 19 years old. He had finished his apprenticeship just before father died. We thought that was like the pity of the gods for us. He had become the head of the house. He was very skillful in his business and had many friends. Therefore, he could maintain us. He made 13 yen the first month. That is very good for a seal cutter. One evening, he came home sick. He said that his head hurt him. Mother had then been dead 47 days. That evening, he could not eat. Next morning, he was not able to get up. He had a very hot fever. We nursed him as well as we could and sat up at night to watch by him. But he did not get better. On the morning of the third day of his sickness, we became frightened because he began to talk to Mother. It was the 49th day after Mother's death, the day the soul leaves the house. And Brother spoke as if Mother was calling him. Yes, Mother, yes, in a little while I shall come. Then he told us that Mother was pulling him by the sleeve. He would point with his hand and call to us, "There she is! There! Do you not see her?" We would tell him that we could not see anything. Then he would say, "Ah, you did not look quick enough. She is hiding now. She has gone down under the floor mats." All the morning he talked like that. At last grandmother stood up and stamped her foot on the floor and reproached mother, speaking very loud. "Taka," she said, "Taka, what you do is very wrong. When you were alive, we all loved you. None of us ever spoke unkind words to you. Why do you now want to take the boy? You know that he is the only pillar of our house. You know that if you take him there will not be anyone to care for the ancestors. You know that if you take him, you will destroy the family name. Otaka it is cruel, it is shameful, it is wicked." Grandmother was so angry that all her body trembled. Then she sat down and cried, and I and my little sister cried, but our brother said that mother was still pulling him by the sleeve. When the sun went down, he died. No, it's kind of sad. Grandmother wept and stroked us and sang a little song that she made herself. I can remember it still. I'm not gonna sing that. But it means children without parents. No. Like the seagulls of the coast, evening after evening the sleeves are wrung. The word chidori, indiscriminately applied to many kinds of birds, is here used for seagull. It's also Kakashi Sensei's jutsu. The cries of the seagull are thought to express melancholy and desolation, hence the comparison. The long sleeve of the Japanese robe is used to wipe the eyes as well as to hide the face in moments of grief. To wring the sleeve, that is, to wring the moisture from a tear-drenched sleeve, is a frequent expression in Japanese poetry. Okay. So the third grave was made, but it was not a ningyo no haka, and that was the end of our house. We lived with kindred until winter, when grandmother died. She died in the night, when nobody knew. In the morning she seemed to be sleeping, but she was dead. Then I and my little sister were separated. My sister was adopted by a tatamiya, a mat maker, one of father's friends. She is kindly treated. She even goes to school. Manyemon says it's a way of showing sympathy. Okay. Murmured Manyemon. Then there was a moment or two of sympathetic silence. Ine prostrated herself in thanks and rose to depart. As she slipped her feet under the thongs of her sandals, I moved toward the spot where she had been sitting to ask the old man a question. She perceived my intention and immediately made an indescribable sign to Manyemon, who responded by checking me just as I was going to sit down beside him. She wishes, he said, that the master will honorably strike the matting first. But why? I asked in surprise, noticing that under my unshod feet, the spot where the child had been kneeling felt comfortably warm. Manyemon answered, "She believes that to sit down upon the place made warm by the body of another is to take into one's own life all the sorrow of that other person, unless the place be stricken first." Whereat I sat down without performing the rite, and we both laughed. "Ine," said Manyemon, "the master takes your sorrows upon him. He wants—" I cannot venture to render Manyemon's honorifics. "To understand the pain of other people. You need not fear for him, Ine." Oh, and that's it. Okay. How did you guys like that? That was alright. That was okay. Mm. 6 out of 10. Dun, dun, dun. Unfortunately, not mermaid. Mm. I got to do a high voice though. Okay. What shall we do next? Wow. Was that like 10 billion out of 10? Was that a really good one? Not enough fish. In I'm leaning towards cholera. In cholera time. What did that have to do with a mermaid? It did not have to do with a mermaid. It's a different ningyo. It's a little doll instead of a mermaid. Cry. Sad. Have I read The Corpse Rider yet? No? Is that in this one? Oh, The Corpse Rider? Should we do that? Chucky? All right. The Corpse Rider. That sounds interesting. The body was cold as ice. The heart had long ceased to beat. Yet there were no other signs of death. Nobody even spoke of burying the woman. She had died of grief and anger at having been divorced. It would have been useless to bury her, because the last undying wish of a dying person for vengeance can burst asunder any tomb and lift the heaviest graveyard stone. People who lived near the house in which she was lying, fled from their homes. They knew that she was only waiting for the return of the man who had divorced her. Okay. She is not happy. At the time of her death, he was on a journey. When he came back and was told what had happened, terror seized him. If I can find no help before dark, he thought to himself, she will tear me to pieces. Okay. Okay, this is the guy who divorced her. Oh no. He's very scared now. Mm. It was yet only the hour of the dragon, but he knew that he had no time to lose. Hour of the dragon, 8 o'clock in the morning. He went at once to an inyoshi and begged for succor. The inyoshi knew the story of the dead woman, and he had seen the body. He said to the supplicant, "A very great danger threatens you. I will try to save you, but you must promise to do whatever I shall tell you to do. There is no one There's only one way by which you can be saved. It is a fearful way, but unless you find the courage to attempt it, she will tear you limb from limb. If you can be brave, come to me again in the evening before sunset." The man shuddered, but he promised to do whatever should be required of him. At sunset, the inyoshi went with him to the house where the body was lying. Hold on. Inyoshi is a professor or master of the science of Inyo, Chinese nature philosophy. Okay. All right, what must he do? The Inyoshi pushed open the sliding doors and told his client to enter. It was rapidly growing dark. I dare not, gasped the man, quaking from head to foot. I dare not even look at her. You will have to do much more than look at her, declared the Inyoshi, and you promised to obey. Go in! He forced the trembler into the house and led him to the side of the corpse. The dead woman was lying on her face. Now you must get astride upon her, said the Inyoshi, and sit firmly on her back, as if you were riding a horse. Come, you must do it. The man shivered so that the Inyoshi had to support him, shivered horribly, but he obeyed. Now take her hair in your hands, commanded the Inyoshi, half in the right hand, half in the left. So, you must grip it like a bridle. Twist your hands in it, both hands, tightly. That is the way. Listen to me. You must stay like that till morning. You will have reason to be afraid in the night, plenty of reason. But whatever may happen, never let go of her hair. If you let go, even for 1 second, she will tear you into gubbits. Okay. The Inyoshi then whispered some mysterious words into the ear of the body and said to its rider, Now, for my own sake, I must leave you alone with her. Remain as you are. Above all things, remember that you must not let go of her hair. And he went away, closing the doors behind him. He's quite literal. Yeah, he is a corpse rider. Sounds like a prank. What do you think is going to happen? Is this real or a prank? Hour after hour, the man sat upon the corpse in black fear, and the hush of the night deepened and deepened about him, till he screamed to break it. Instantly the body sprang beneath him, as to cast him off, and the dead woman cried out loudly, How heavy it is! Yet I shall bring that fellow here now. Then tall she rose, and leaped to the doors, and flung them open, and rushed into the night, always bearing the weight of the man. But he, shutting his eyes, kept his hands twisted in her long hair, tightly, tightly, though fearing with such a fear that he could not even moan. How far she went, he never knew. He saw nothing. He heard only the sound of her naked feet in the dark, pitch, pitcha, and the hiss of her breathing as she ran. At last she turned and ran back into the house and lay down upon the floor exactly as at first. Under the man she panted and moaned till the cocks began to crow. Interesting choice of words. Thereafter she lay still, but the man with chattering teeth sat upon her until the Inyoshi came at sunrise. So, you did not let go of her hair, observed the Inyoshi, greatly pleased. That is well. Now you can stand up. He whispered again into the ear of the corpse, and then said to the man, You must have passed a fearful night, but nothing else could have saved you. Hereafter you may feel secure from her vengeance. Ah, that's kind of it. I like that. That was an actual corpse rider. Did not expect that. If he hangs on all night, does he get a big expensive belt buckle? Good on him. He actually hung on the entire night. That's hard to do. Yeah, like a rodeo bull. Okay, that was very interesting. Okay, now the narrator talks. Hold on, let's finish it. The conclusion of this story I do not think to be morally satisfying. Yeah, you think? It is not recorded that the corpse rider became insane or that his hair turned white. We are told only that he worshipped the Inyoshi with tears of gratitude. A note appended to the recital is equally disappointing. It is reported, the Japanese author says, that a grandchild of the man still survives, and that a grandson of the Inyoshi is at this very time living in a village called Otokunoi Mura. This village name does not this village name does not appear in any Japanese directory of today, but the names of many towns and villages have been changed since the foregoing story was written. As interesting as it sounded. Yeah. Yeah. Did anyone expect that he was going to be actually riding a corpse? I like this sentence right here. That is a nice sentence. Mm. Okay. All right. Whoever suggested that, good choice. All right. Can I save? Okay. You're sort of worried about him riding a corpse? Oh, okay. I wasn't even thinking about that. All right. Guys, what should we do? I'm thinking cholera time. Cholera. Cholera sounds fun. I'm totally gonna make a video for it. Well, very tempting. Corpse Rider. Hmm. All right. In cholera time. What is this supposed to mean? What's this? The first Chino-Japanese War. Okay. All right. In cholera time. This might be a long one. Look, there's a part. Part 1. China's chief ally in the late war, being deaf and blind, knew nothing, and still knows nothing, of treaties or of peace. It followed the returning armies of Japan, invaded the victorious empire, and killed about 30,000 people during the hot season. It is still slaying, and the funeral pyres burn continually. Okay, let's talk about cholera. Sometimes the smoke and the odor come wind-blown into my garden down from the hills behind the town, just to remind me that the cost of burning an adult of my own size is 80 sen, about half a dollar in American money, and the present rate of exchange. Okay, got a little dark there. From the upper balcony of my house, the whole length of a Japanese street, with its rows of little shops, is visible down to the bay. Out of various houses in that street, I have seen cholera patients conveyed to the hospital. The last one, only this morning, my neighbor across the way, who kept a porcelain shop. He was removed by force, in spite of the tears and cries of his family. The sanitary law forbids the treatment of cholera in private houses, yet people try to hide their sick in spite of fines and other penalties because the public cholera hospitals are overcrowded and roughly managed, and the patients are entirely separated from all who love them. But the police are not often deceived. They soon discover unreported cases and come with litters and coolies. It seems cruel, but sanitary law must be cruel. But sanitary law must be cruel. My neighbor's wife followed the litter, crying, until the police obliged her to return to her desolate little shop. It is now closed up and will probably never be opened again by the owners. Such tragedies end as quickly as they begin. The bereaved, so soon as the law allows, remove their pathetic belongings and disappear, and the ordinary life of the street goes on, day and by night, exactly as if nothing particular had happened. Itinerant vendors with their bamboo poles and baskets or buckets or boxes pass the empty houses and utter their accustomed cries. Religious processions go by, chanting fragments of sutras. The blind shampooer blows his melancholy whistle. The private watchman makes his heavy staff boom upon the gutter flags. The boy who sells confectionery still taps his drum and sings a love song with a plaintive, sweet voice like a girl's. Oh no. You and I together, I remained long, yet in the moment of going, I thought I had only just come. Okay. You and I together. Still, I think of the tea, old or new tea of Uji, it might have seemed to others. But to me, it was Gyokoro tea of the beautiful yellow of the Yamabuki flower. You and I together. I am the telegraph operator. You are the one who waits the message. I send my heart, and you receive it. What care we now if the post should fall, if the wires be broken? What, you want me to sing the entire thing? And the children sport as usual. They chase one another with screams and laughter. They dance in chorus. They catch dragonflies and tie them to long strings. They sing burdens of the war about cutting off Chinese heads. Jeez. Chan Chan. Little boys can cut off a Chinese head. Oh my goodness. Sometimes a child vanishes, but the survivors continue their play. And this is wisdom. It costs only 44 sen to burn a child. The son of one of my neighbors was burned a few days ago. The little stones with which he used to play lie there in the sun just as he left them. Curious, this child love of stones. Stones are the toys not only of the children of the poor, but of all children at one period of existence. No matter how well supplied with other playthings, every Japanese child wants something to play with stones. To the child mind, a stone is a marvelous thing, and ought so to be, since even to the understanding of the mathematician there can be nothing more wonderful than a common stone. The tiny urchin suspects the stone to be much more than it seems, which is an excellent suspicion, and if stupid grown-up folk did not untruthfully tell him that his plaything is not worth thinking about, he would never tire of it, and would always be finding something new and extraordinary in it. Only a very great mind could answer all a child's questions about stones. According to popular faith, my neighbor's darling is now playing with small ghostly stones in the dry bed of the river of souls, wondering, perhaps, why they cast no shadows. The true poetry in the legend of Saino-Kawara is the absolute naturalness of its principal idea, the phantom continuation of that play which all little Japanese children play with stones. Okay. This is a reference to Sai no Kawara, which is like children who die, they go to the afterlife, and they next to the River of Souls, they put stones on top of each other. Yeah. And while they do that, a demon would come and kick the stones, and they would have to rebuild them again. Yeah. The pipe stem seller used to make his round with two large boxes suspended from a bamboo pole balanced upon his shoulder. One box containing stems of various diameters, lengths, and colors, together with tools for fitting them into metal pipes, and the other box containing a baby, his own baby. Sometimes I saw it peeping over the edge of the box and smiling at the passers-by. Sometimes I saw it lying, well wrapped up and fast asleep, in the bottom of the box. Sometimes I saw it playing with toys. Many people, I was told, used to give it toys. One of the toys bore a curious resemblance to a mortuary tablet, and this I always observed in the box, whether the child were asleep or awake. The other day, I discovered that the pipe stem seller had abandoned his bamboo pole and suspended boxes. He was coming up the street with a little hand cart, just big enough to hold his wares and his baby, and evidently built for that purpose in two compartments. Perhaps the baby had become too heavy for the more primitive method of conveyance. Above the cart fluttered a small white flag, bearing in cursive characters the legend Kiserurao Kai, pipe stems exchanged. And a brief petition for honorable help. The child seemed well and happy, and I again saw the tablet-shaped object, which had so often attracted my notice before. It was now fastened upright to a high box in the cart facing the infant's bed. As I watched the cart approaching, I suddenly felt convinced that the tablet was really an ihai. The sun shone full upon it, and there was no mistaking the conventional Buddhist text. This aroused my curiosity, and I asked Manyemon to tell the pipe stem seller that we had a number of pipes needing fresh stems, which was true. Presently, the cartlet drew up at our gate, and I went to look at it. The child was not afraid, even of a foreign face, a pretty boy. He lisped and laughed and held out his arms, being evidently used to petting. And while playing with him, I looked closely at the tablet. It was a Shinshu ihai, bearing a woman's kaimyo, or posthumous name, and Manyemon translated the Chinese characters for me. Revered and of good rank in the mansion of excellence, the 31st day of the 3rd month of the 28th year of Meiji. Meantime, a servant had fetched the pipes which needed new stems, and I glanced at the face of the artisan as he worked. It was the face of a man past middle age, with those worn, sympathetic lines about the mouth, dry beds of old smiles, which give to so many Japanese faces an indescribable expression of resigned gentleness. Presently, Manyemon began to ask questions. And when Manyemon asks questions, not to reply is possible for the wicked only. Sometimes behind that dear, innocent old head, I think I see the dawning of an aureole, the aureole of the Bosats. Bosats, the Sanskrit bodhisattva. The pipe stem seller answered by telling his story. 2 months after the birth of their little boy, his wife had died. In the last hour of her illness, she had said, "From what time I die till 3 full years be past, I pray you to leave the child always united with the shadow of me. Never let him be separated from my ihai, so that I may continue to care for him and to nurse him, since thou knowest that he should have the breast for 3 years. This my last asking, I entreat thee, do not forget. So she's spiritually breastfeeding him. But the mother being dead, the father could not labor as he had been wont to do, and also take care of so young a child, requiring continual attention both night and day, and he was too poor to hire a nurse. So he took to selling pipe stems, as he could thus make a little money without leaving the child even for a minute alone. He could not afford to buy milk, but he had fed the boy for more than a year with the rice gruel and ame syrup. I said that the child looked very strong, and none the worse for lack of milk. That, declared Manyemon in a tone of conviction bordering on reproof, is because the dead mother nurses him. How should he want for milk? And the boy laughed softly, as if conscious of a ghostly caress. Oh. Okay. That was all right. That was all right. I thought there would have been more cholera, but I guess not. How did you guys like that? Did you follow? Mm. Mm. What was the point of the cholera talk in the beginning? I guess this chapter is just him kind of rambling. Mm. All right. What about Mujina? This might be related to Tanuki. So they were 3 years. Yep. That is 3 years of spiritual breastfeeding. You don't want details on cholera? Is it an awful way to die? Oh yeah. Mm. All right. Yes, a spiritual breastfeeding. Yeah, that's what she did. The child needs its milk. What are you gonna do? Even after you die, you're still a mother. All right, Mujina. What time is it? Oh, we've been going on for what? 2.5 hours? A little bit more? Hmm. It's dark outside. I don't hear the trick-or-treaters anymore. Hmm. All right, Mujina. On the Akasaka Road in Tokyo, there is a slope called Ki no Kunizaka, which means the slope of the province of Ki. I do not know why it is called the slope of the province of Ki. On one side of this slope, you see an ancient moat, deep and very wide, with high green banks rising up to some place of gardens. And on the other side of the road extend the long and lofty walls of an imperial palace. Before the era of street lamps and jinrikishas, jinrikishas, The man-powered vehicle. A cart, essentially. Jinriksha. This neighborhood was very lonesome after dark, and belated pedestrians would go miles out of their way rather than mount the Kinokunizaka alone after sunset, all because of a Mujina that used to walk there. The last man who saw the Mujina was an old merchant of the Kyobashi quarter, who died about 30 years ago. This is the story as he told it. One night, at a late hour, he was hurrying up the Kino Kunizaka when he perceived a woman crouching by the moat, all alone and weeping bitterly. Fearing that she intended to drown herself, he stopped to offer her any assistance or consolation in his power. She appeared to be a slight and graceful person, handsomely dressed, and her hair was arranged like that of a young girl of a good family. "O Chochu!" he exclaimed, approaching her. "O Chochu, do not cry like that. Please tell me what the trouble is, and if there be any way to help you, I shall be glad to help you." He really meant what he said, for he was a very kind man, but she continued to weep, hiding her face from him with one of her long sleeves. "O Chochu," he said again, as gently as he could. Please, please, listen to me. This is no place for a young lady at night. Do not cry, I implore you. Only tell me how I may be of some help to you." Slowly she rose up, but turned her back to him, and continued to moan and sob behind her sleeve. He laid his hand lightly upon her shoulder and pleaded, "O Chochu! O Chochu! O Chochu, listen to me for just one little moment! O Chochu! O Chochu!" Then that O Chochu turned around and dropped her sleeve and stroked her face with her hand, and the man saw that she had no eyes or nose or mouth, and he screamed and ran away. Up Kino Kunizaka he ran, and all was black and empty before him. On and on he ran, never daring to look back, and at last he saw a lantern so far away that it looked like the gleam of a firefly, and he made for it, and it proved to be only the lantern of an itinerant soba seller who had set down his stand by the roadside. But any light that and any human companionship was good after that experience, and he flung himself down at the feet of the soba seller, crying out, "Ah! Ah! Ah!" "Kore, kore!" roughly exclaimed the soba man. "Here, what is the matter with you? Anybody hurt you?" "No, nobody hurt me," panted the other. "Only, ah, ah." "Only scared you?" queried the peddler unsympathetically. "Robbers?" "Not robbers, not robbers," gasped the terrified man. I saw a woman by the boat, and she showed me. I cannot tell you what she showed me." "Eh? Was it anything like this that she showed you?" cried the soba man, stroking his own face, which therewith became like unto an egg, and simultaneously the light went out. Oh, I like that one. That was good. That was good. Yeah, I know the story, but this is a good retelling of it. You read this chapter in class? Why didn't you pay attention in class, huh? Okay, I like that one. Oops. Those mischievous yoke. No free soba for him? Nope. What do you think happened to the man? Did he die or did he just ran away again? They just go around just scaring people just for the heck of it. Yeah, that's a good life. I envy them. I wish I could do that. It'd be hella scary for trick or treating too. All right. Getting a bit late. How about we end with one more story? How about that? Should choose a good one. We should judge the story by its title. You expect they just wanted to scare him? Yeah, that's funny. I like those yokai that they don't hurt you. They just run around just pranking you, just messing with you. Like the Shirime, the butt eye yokai. Love that one. The best. We do not see him escape to tell the tale. Yeah. All right. There's of a promise kept, promise broken, the reconciliation story of a Tengu. What about the Eternal Haunter? If we're judging a story by its title, sounds like a very good title. The Eternal Haunter. All right. Last story, guys. Let's do it. The Eternal Haunter. This year, the Tokyo color prints, Nishike, seem to me of unusual interest. They reproduce, or almost reproduce, the color charm of the early broadsides, and they showed a marked improvement in line drawing. Certainly, one could not wish for anything prettier than the best prints of the present season. My latest purchase has been a set of weird studies, specters of all kinds, known to the Far East, including many varieties not yet discovered in the West. Some are extremely unpleasant, but a few are really charming. Here, for example, is a delicious thing by Chikanobu, just published, and for sale at the remarkable price of 3 sen. Can you guess what it represents? Wait, are we supposed to see a picture? No? Yes, a girl, but what kind of girl? Study it a little. Very lovely, is she not? Yes, very lovely. With that shy sweetness in her downcast gaze, that light and dainty grace, as of a resting butterfly. No, she is not some Psyche of the most eastern East, in the sense that you mean, but she is a soul. Observe that the cherry flowers falling from the branch above are passing through her form. See also the folds of her robe below, melting into blue faint mist. Wait, hold on, let me move down a little bit. Maybe there's a picture. There's not a picture. Okay. How delicate and vapory the whole thing is. It gives you the feeling of spring, and all those fairy colors are the colors of a Japanese spring morning. No, she is not the personification of any season. Rather, she is a dream, such a dream as might haunt the slumbers of far eastern youth. But the artist did not intend her to represent a dream. You cannot guess? Well, she is a tree spirit, the spirit of the cherry tree. Only in the twilight of morning or of evening she appears, gliding about her tree, and whoever sees her must love her. But if approached, she vanishes back into the trunk, like a vapor absorbed. There is a legend of one tree spirit who loved a man and even gave him a son, but such conduct was quite at variance with the shy habits of her race. Okay. Another yokai who gives a man a son. What do you think? Is she going to leave him at the end? You ask, what is the use of drawing the impossible? Your asking proves that you do not feel the charm of this vision of youth, this dream of spring. I hold that the impossible bears a much closer relation to fact than does most of what we call the real and the commonplace. The impossible may not be naked truth, but I think that it is usually truth, masked and veiled perhaps, but eternal. Now to me, this Japanese dream is true. True, at least, as human love is. Considered even as a ghost, it is true. Whoever pretends to not believe in ghosts of any sort lies to his own heart. Every man is haunted by ghosts, and this color print reminds me of a ghost whom we all know, though most of us, poets excepted, are unwilling to confess the acquaintance. Perhaps, for it happens to some of us, you may have seen this haunter in dreams of the night, even during childhood. Then, of course, you could not know the beautiful shape bending above your rest. Possibly you thought her to be an angel, or the soul of a dead sister. But in waking life, we must become aware of her presence about the time when boyhood begins to ripen into youth. This first of her apparitions is a shock of ecstasy, a breathless delight, but the wonder and the pleasure are quickly followed by a sense of sadness inexpressible, totally unlike any sadness ever felt before, though in her gaze there is only caress, and on her lips the most exquisite of smiles, and you cannot imagine the reason of that feeling until you have learned who she is, which is not an easy thing to learn. Only a moment she remains, but during that luminous moment all the tides of your being set and surge to her with a longing for which there is not any word, and then suddenly she is not, and you find that the sun has gloomed, the colors of the world turned gray. Thereafter enchantment remains between you and all that you loved before. Persons or things or places, none of them will ever seem again so near and dear as in other days. Often she will return, once that you have seen her, she will never cease to visit you, and this haunting, ineffably sweet, inexplicably sad, may fill you with rash desire to wander over the world in search of somebody like her. But however long and far you wander, never will you find that somebody. Later, you may learn to fear her visits because of the pain they bring, the strange pain that you cannot understand. But the breath of zones and seas cannot divide you from her. Walls of iron cannot exclude her. Soundless and subtle as a shudder of ether is the motion of her. Ancient her beauty as the heart of man, yet ever waxing fairer, forever remaining young. Mortals wither in time as leaves in the frost of autumn, but time only brightens the glow and the bloom of her endless youth. All men have loved her, all must continue to love her, but none shall touch with his lips even the hem of her garment. All men adore her, yet all she deceives, and many are the ways of her deception. Most often she lures her lover into the presence of some earthly maid, and blends herself incomprehensibly with the body of that maid, and works such sudden glamour that the human gaze becomes divine, that the human limbs shine through their raiment. But presently the luminous haunter detaches herself from the mortal, and leaves her dupe to wonder at the mockery of sense. No man can describe her, though nearly all men have sometime tried to do so. Pictured she cannot be, since her beauty itself is a ceaseless becoming, multiple to infinitude, and tremulous with perpetual quickening, as with flowing of light. There is a story, indeed, that thousands of years ago Some marvelous sculptor was able to fix in stone a single remembrance of her. But this doing became for the many cause of sorrow supreme, and the gods decreed out of compassion that to no other mortal should ever be given power to work the like wonder. In these years we can worship only. In these years we can worship only. We cannot portray. But who is she? What is she? Ah, that is what I wanted you. That is what I wanted you to ask. Well, she has never had a name, but I shall call her a tree spirit. The Japanese say that you can exorcise a tree spirit if you are cruel enough to do it, simply by cutting down her tree. But you cannot exorcise the spirit of whom I speak, nor ever cut down her tree. For her tree is a measureless, timeless, billion-branching tree of life. Even the world tree, Yggdrasil, whose roots are in night and death, whose head is above the gods. Seek to woo her, she is echo. Seek to clasp her, she is shadow. But her smile will haunt you into the hour of dissolution and beyond, through numberless lives to come. And never will you return her smile. Never, because of that which it awakens within you, the pain that you cannot understand. And never, never shall you win to her, because she is the phantom light of long expired suns, because she was shaped by the beating of infinite millions of hearts that are dust, because her witchery was made in the endless ebb and flow of the visions and hopes of youth through countless forgotten cycles of your own incalculable past. Uh, okay. Who is she? Did you just have like a nice dream, a nice wet dream? Well, she never visited me because I don't have a woman that I see every night in my dreams. Hmm. What is the tree spirit, guys? She's the spirit of the cherry tree. Okay. I'm not sure I like that as an ending story. Wait, where is? Okay. Not gonna lie, that was unsatisfying. All right. I'm choosing one more, okay? Choosing one more. All right, come on. That's what I get for judging by a story by its title. Before the Supreme Court? What? Is Ho Ichi the earless an option? Let's see. Is he in here? You ran into a figure like that over imbibing cherry blossom liquor? So once she visits you in her dream, then she visits you forever? Court of Hell, maybe? Before the Supreme Court. You think so? Wait, let's sneak a peek. You know what? Why not? Let's do it! Before the Supreme Court. All right. This is our last story. Our last story. before the Supreme Court. Well, we don't know if this is the court of hell. Which court is this? Court of the gods. The great Buddhist priest Mongaku Shonin says in his book Kyogyo Shinsho, many of those gods whom the people worship are unjust gods. Therefore, such gods are not worshipped by persons who revere the three precious things. What are they? The Buddha, the doctrine, and the priesthood. Okay. Oh, that's the three. And even persons who obtain favors from those gods in answer to prayer usually find at a later date that such favors cause misfortune. This truth is well exemplified by a story recorded in the book Nihon Reiki. During the time of the Emperor Shomu, there lived in the district called Yamadagori in the province of Sanuki a man named Fushiki no Shin. He had but one child, a daughter called Kinume. Kinume was a fine-looking girl and very strong, but shortly after she had reached her 18th year, a dangerous sickness began to prevail in that part of the country, and she was attacked by it. Her parents and friends then made offerings on her behalf to a certain pest god and performed great austerities in honor of the pest god, beseeching him to save her. Ooh, the pest god? That is a really good sounding name for a god. I love it. The pest god. I want to be the pest god. After having lain in a stupor for several days, the sick girl one evening came to herself and told her parents a dream that she had dreamed. She had dreamed that the pest god appeared to her and said, "Your people have been praying to me so earnestly for you, and have been worshipping me so devoutly, that I really wish to save you. But I cannot do so except by giving you the life of some other person. Do you happen to know of any other girl who has the same name as yours?" Ah, it's going to be interesting. Okay. She's gonna choose to kill another girl? "I remember," answered Kinume, "that in Utarigori there is a girl whose name is the same as mine." "Point her out to me," the god said, touching the sleeper, and at the touch she rose into the air with him, and in less than a second the two were in front of the house of the other Kinume in Utarigori. It was night, but the family had not yet gone to bed, and the daughter was washing something in the kitchen. "That is the girl," said Kinume of Yamadagori. The pest god took out of a scarlet bag at his girdle a long, sharp instrument shaped like a chisel, and entering the house, he drove the sharp instrument into the forehead of Kinume of Utarigori. Then Kinume of Utarigori sank to the floor in great agony, and Kinume of Yamadagori awoke and related the dream. Immediately after having related it, however, she again fell into a stupor. For 3 days she remained without knowledge of the world, and her parents began to despair of her recovery. Then once more she opened her eyes and spoke. But almost in the same moment she rose from her bed, looked wildly around the room, and rushed out of the house, exclaiming, "This is not my home! You are not my parents!" Something strange had happened. Kinume of Utarigori had died after having been stricken by the pest god. Her parents sorrowed greatly, and the priests of their parish temple performed a Buddhist service for her, and her body was burned in a field outside the village. Then her spirit descended into the Meido, the world of the dead, and was summoned to the tribunal of Emma Daio, the king and judge of souls. But no sooner had the judge cast eyes upon her Then he exclaimed, it is a court of hell. This girl is the Utarigori Kinume. She ought not to have been brought here so soon. Send her back at once to the Shaba world, and fetch me the other Kinume, the Yamada-gori girl. Oh no. Then the spirit of Kinume of Utarigori made moan before King Emma and complained, saying, Great Lord, it is more than 3 days since I died, and by this time my body must have been burned. And if you now send me back to the Shaba world, what shall I do? My body has been changed into ashes and smoke. I shall have nobody. Do not be anxious, the terrible king answered. I am going to give you the body of Kinume of Yamada-gori, for her spirit must be brought here to me at once. You need not fret about the burning of your body. You will find the body of the other Kinume very much better. And scarcely had he finished speaking when the spirit of Kinume of Utarigori revived in the body of Kinume of Yamada-gori. Now, when the parents of Kinume of Yamada-gori saw their sick girl spring up and run away, exclaiming, This is not my home, they imagined her to be out of her mind, and they ran after her, calling out, Kinume, where are you going? Wait for a moment, child. You are much too ill to run like that. But she escaped from them, and ran on without stopping until she came to Utarigori, and to the house of the family of the dead Kinume. There she entered and found the old people, and she saluted them, crying, Oh, how pleasant to be again at home! Is it well with you, dear parents? They did not recognize her, and thought her mad, but the mother spoke to her kindly, asking, Where have you come from, child? From the Meadow I have come, Kinume made answer. I am your own child, Kinume, returned to you from the dead. But I have now another body, mother. And she related all that had happened, and the old people wondered exceedingly, yet did not know what to believe. Presently the parents of Kinume of Yamada-gori also came to the house looking for their daughter. And then the 2 fathers and the 2 mothers consulted each together, and made the girl repeat her story, and question her over and over again. But she replied to every question in such a way that the truth of her statements could not be doubted. At last the mother of the Yamada-gori Kinume, after having related the strange dream which her sick daughter had dreamed, said to the parents of the Utarigori Kinume, We are satisfied that the spirit of this girl is the spirit of your child, but you know that her body is the body of our child, and we think that both families ought to have a share with her. So we would ask you to agree that she be considered henceforward the daughter of both families. Okay. Interesting. To this proposal, the Utarigori parents joyfully consented, and it is recorded that in after time, Kinume inherited the property of both households. This story, says the Japanese author of the Bukyo Hakwa Zensho, may be found on the left side of the 12th sheet of the first volume of the Nihon Reiki. All right. That's a good one. That was a good one to end on. All right. Was didn't know where it was going in the beginning. But it went in a way that was surprisingly wholesome. Okay, I like it. A nice wholesome ending for a nice wholesome stream. Hold on. Where was that? Supreme Court. All right, guys. Yay! Thanks for joining. Okay, we have successfully hidden from the trick-or-treaters. Good job. High five. Yes. Good one to wrap up. Yeah. Yeah. So I marked the stories that I read. So maybe next year on another Halloween we can do other ones, because probably shouldn't want to repeat the same stories. Everyone reverse died at the end. Yeah. All right, guys. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the reading. Okay. Thanks for joining. Why am I? Oh no. Hello. Hello. Yeah, now I'm in the center. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. All right. I love you. Happy Halloween. Hope you guys enjoyed the story, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, when's the next video? Next video should be, I think, next week. Sometimes. There. All right. All right. Thanks for joining. All right. Bye.